Studios, the ausbiz COB is the key stuff you need to know about the day in business and finance.
What? Hi! We're just having a little chat here in the break. Welcome on this Monday afternoon to the COB. I'm Nadine Blaney.
And I'm Danny Akuye.
And we should pay attention to what we're being told. Look, what we're being told by this market is what? Just fizzle.
Slip sliding away.
Yeah.
That's how I described it. It was in the positive, as we can see, started this morning. But as of 11 o'clock, and as some of those Asian markets came on stream, we really lost momentum. And it looks like the SIBO 200 is off by almost 10 points or just over 0.7%. And I know.
It's just incredible.
It is slip sliding away. And the ASX 200 also off by about 45 points or 0.6% until we get closing prices. So it's all a bit sad face, isn't it?
And like you said, if misery loves company, we've seen that around the Asian region. We've got a big week this week, don't we, with US inflation data coming through. Also, we've got European inflation data. We have the monthly inflation read coming here this week. So I think just
risk off, baby.
Risk off, and it's been such a hot month, not just for the S&P 500, but we have seen our market follow the US market higher as well. Okay.
Absolutely, and I think I was chatting today with quite a couple of economists, and there is the possibility that Santa's secret might be a nasty secret. It might be a rate hike, but nevertheless, we just don't know. That's next week. But let's focus on the first theme of the day: takeover target. Are we all right there?
I don't know. I feel a bit Friday-ish on this Monday, to be totally honest.
I had to have a coffee boost. There was something not quite kick-starting.
I was just fed chocolate in the newsroom just to keep me going to the end of the day.
Oh, sneaky chocolate. I didn't get that. Anyway, Adore Beauty has been the subject of a potential takeover target. They've rebuffed it, but the stock at one stage was up 20%.
Yeah, it's not quite at that high of the day now, but I did speak with Dean Fergie from Cyan Investment Management on the small caps. And what's complicating is the fact that its two founders have about 40% of the stock between them. So at what price will they think is fair value for the company? They've obviously already knocked back the offer that's been put on the table. So that was a little M&A to start this Monday.
Absolutely. And as you were just saying, we've got a data dump this week, a deluge of data. And I was so surprised. Saturday morning, we went off to Carriage Works food markets. Empty. Where was everybody? Went to the Supercentre in Moore Park. They're at the Supercentre in Moore Park
I went
on Black Friday sales on a Saturday. I'm like, oh my God, this is so not good for interest rates. Stop shopping, everyone.
I know. Again, just referencing the newsroom, one of my colleagues out there, the beautiful Carolina, said, if the money that I spent this weekend is anything to go by, the RBA needs to hike.
Yeah.
I was at Pitt Street Mall, and I'm telling you, there was money being spent hand over fist. But I did speak with David Robertson from Bendigo and Adelaide Bank today. He doesn't think that there will be that rate hike coming. There will be a rate hike coming, just not in December.
Yeah.
He reckons that the bank will wait for that monthly inflation read and some more data to come through as well.
Sean Langcake from Oxford Economics, they're still calling that rate hike in December, so that's next week, Tuesday the 5th. Although Warren Hogan, who describes himself as neutral, not hawkish, just take note everybody, because I got foot and mouth disease there, and he just made the point that the October read in the CPI for Australia might be a bit softer, so they mightn't have enough to get them over the line. I, on the other hand, feel like just get it over and done with. I'm so bored of all of it.
Yeah. If I
tough.
had $1 for every time I said inflation or rate expectations, well, I wouldn't be standing beside you, would I? Anyhow, let's get back to market, shall we? See what sectors, mostly underperformed, I suppose, today. Consumer discretionary was particularly weak. Interesting, ahead of that retail sales read that we do get tomorrow. And when you keep in mind, all of the spending that's going on for Black Friday. And it sort of reminds me of last week when we heard from some of these retailers saying just how important Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales are going to be this year, because we really are following what's been going on in the States for a while, where this is becoming just, really important in terms of shoppers. Another newsroom anecdote saying, for the first time ever, somebody's partner was going to be doing all Christmas shopping while the Black Friday sales were on. Want to get that 25% off, want to get that 20% off and just get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we can see those stocks in the red in the consumer discretionary. But let's check out some of the other sectors and see how they performed. It doesn't have Origin Energy in there, but the utilities also under some pressure today, probably again off to do with rate expectations.
We had the materials space underperforming, so some of those big names down by between 1.5%. Well, in the case of Fortescue, off by 2%. There was actually quite a lot of pressure coming through on commodity prices. Nickel, I noticed, was coming under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
One bright spot though, Danny?
I know. Well, it was good to see because the likes of Wistech and Technology One, which finished up 3%, they were heavily sold off on Friday afternoon. So it looks like the traders have been back in there today. But yeah, you're right, Nadine, very much a risk-off mode at the moment, including the Aussie dollar, which has also been strong under pressure.
REITs, just quickly, I think we should mention as well that we've got US futures lower at this stage of the game. So there was a very, very short window for equities trade in the US on Friday, really small gains. Obviously, you know, horrific volumes. Nobody wants to be working on a Thanksgiving Friday in the States. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, so let's check in with some of these stories. We've already touched on Adore Beauty up 19% as it was responded to reports that it received that takeover offer from THG,
I'm not familiar with that.
No, British e-commerce retailer. I'm sure they were preferring if they'd, well, as you say, they're not really, the owners are not going to want to give the business away, are they? But they've rejected the $1.25 to $1.30 share price takeover bid, saying it's too undervalued.
QBE was out with a bit of a trading update. Look, it's reiterated its full year outlook. It is also talking up gross written premiums because, you know, they've been growing and they do expect them to continue to grow into 2024. In fact, grow around 10% in FY23.
And don't we know it when we go to, I'm dreading that. Also, IGO sticking with the CEO-elect Ivan Avella, and this is despite the former Rio Tinto aluminium boss not having followed apparently all the appropriate procedures of the handover. Nevertheless, he is going ahead and joining IGO.
Yeah, I think that takes place on December the 11th, so CEO and managing director. And then at Helius, which has been under a spot of bother lately, its chair will be retiring at the end of the company's AGM tomorrow. So Kate McKenzie has been appointed as interim chair. But look, back to Adore yet again, because it was the stock of the day. Guess who was back on the call today?
Oh, David Gosh,
yeah. Of course she was. And he was joined by David Lane from Ords and Jessica Amir from Mumu.
It's difficult at the moment. I probably wouldn't. It's not a stock that Ords cover, and I think it is a stock that, you know, has a number of issues around it. As I said, their revenues have been declining and they're struggling to generate a profit. So it's probably one I'd be steering clear of if you don't already have it.
But still, all in all, I think the earnings growth margins are still too small for my liking to put my money where my mouth is. So yeah, I don't think the long-term growth story is there.
So Adore Beauty.
Well, ho-hum.
Not so beautiful.
No, indeed. But let's move on because our guest, Josh Gilt from eToro, is waiting for us. Josh, that moustache is getting some form there.
It's getting bigger, yeah, absolutely.
We are almost at the end of the month, Josh. Get yourself ready.
I know, just a few days left.
Just a few days left in this month that has actually been pretty positive for equities. What happened today, though? There was a bit of a party pooper.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that everyone was out shopping at the weekend. Maybe everyone was sort of having to sell down some assets to pay off their spending from the weekend, maybe. But no, I think, you know, we had Michelle Bullock sort of coming out last week, I think really taking a bit of a hawkish tone, and I think that is just putting markets on the back foot a little bit. I think we sort of getting this expectation that we may see another rate hike before the year ends, and I think that is just, you know, as we've sort of said there, put sort of markets on the back foot a little bit and going into you know, into sort of sell-off mode. Materials, you know, sort of coming under pressure today after sort of that decline in iron ore. That's obviously going to put sort of the market on the back foot, given its sort of weighting as well. But iron ore's had a great run up, so I don't think there's probably too many worries seeing that fall just slightly to start the day. But it is a little bit surprising to see, given that we've had such positivity from sort of US markets, the S&P 500 coming off the back of 4 weeks of gains now, 2 weeks as well of all 11 sectors on the S&P 500 finishing in the green. So not very often sort of that happens. But yeah, a bit risk off, especially when we've got a huge amount of data coming through this week.
Yeah, totally. And would you be surprised at this stage if there was some profit taking that came into the US markets? I believe it's US tax selling time. And I was listening to somebody who expects, I'm not technical, this is their technical, that it comes down to the 200, from the 200 moving day average down to the 50-day moving average. But then it sets it up for everybody to buy it for the Christmas rally. Is that sort of an outlook that's feasible at this stage, Josh?
Yeah, I guess the sort of the view is, has Santa sort of come early in the sense of that rally? I mean, usually we sort of have that sort of fourth quarter rally heading into sort of year end. Investors start sort of positioning their portfolio for the year ahead. Buying stocks on the anticipation they've got a year ahead of them for it to sort of do sort of pretty well. But I also think the outlook for next year is still pretty good as well. So yes, there may be a bit of profit taking, but also is that profit taking maybe a little bit too early? If we've got the sort of rate cut expectations that are coming up as early as sort of April, May now, in the sort of the US inflation continuing to move in the right direction. Maybe it's not the right time to sort of be taking those profits, but like I say, when you've got the S&P 500 coming off the back of sort of 4 weeks of gains, I definitely think there will be investors thinking that, okay, we're sort of finishing this year strong after what was, a pretty weak sort of Q3, really, all in all. It was pretty difficult. So now that we're sort of back above the S&P 500, pushing close to sort of record highs, which would have probably been hard to sort of guess in the middle of the year. But if we can sort of get close to those record highs, I certainly think there might be a little bit of cash being taken off the table.
Okay, but we do have core PCE inflation out in the States, which could upset the apple cart. I don't know. We've got inflation reads in China. So we know that it's a big week on the economic front. Is there anything corporate that we have to watch out for when it comes to corporates in the States?
Pretty quiet. I mean, earnings season is sort of wrapping up, really. Obviously, Nvidia was probably the last sort of real big name last week to sort of deliver. Obviously, that they delivered some stellar earnings. Sort of once again, market wasn't 100% sure on it, but I think overall it's been a pretty decent earnings season. Again, wrapping up the last sort of few names in the S&P 500. 4% earnings growth, Magnificent Seven sort of really leading that earnings growth, more than 50% earnings growth from those 7 stocks, so sort of really solid. But I think, as you say, that focus will be on all of that inflation data coming through this week. US PCE going to be sort of really key in terms of I think it's going to be really key, because I think if it's another weak reading, Jerome Powell is sort of going to have a really difficult challenge on his hands to sort of rein in market expectations of rate cuts. They're obviously going to have to sort of really drill in and reinforce this higher for longer sort of mantra that they're sort of really trying to get across to sort of markets. And I think that's going to be sort of difficult to sort of keep doing if all of this data that we're getting from the US keeps moving in the right direction and those market expectations keep rising for obviously rate cuts. And then obviously locally, it's a completely different story, right? It's an expectation of when we're probably going to see another hike from the RBA, rather than if we see another hike. Inflation is expected to decline on a monthly basis this week marginally. Oil obviously coming off its highs. That's 2 months of sort of losses, down 15% in the last couple of months. So that is good news there. But I do think that the RBA has got one sort of more insurance hike to sort of deliver, whether that's next week or sort of next year. I think inflation and retail sales this week might give us a better indication of that.
Absolutely, Josh. Well, at least we've only got just over a week to wait to see whether or not, well, we'll get some indications from the data, but we have the meeting next Tuesday. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today on Ausbiz.
See you, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a great week.
Yeah.
And the RBA new deputy governor being appointed today by the Treasurer.
Absolutely. So the Treasurer has appointed British central banker Andrew Hauser, who is actually an academic out of Oxford apparently. And he will be, deputy governor, and they're still overhauling the RBA. So they are going to legislate on that this week, which will be interesting. Warren Hogan just wants to see some convention around this independent board being established, which makes sense, who's going to be from which industries on it, etc. But just interesting that he's picked somebody from overseas.
That's what I was going to say, not just an RBA outsider, but a foreigner. And just some of the analysis that I was reading was sort of suggesting it's because, they want this overhaul, they want it to be independent, they want, international experience to be brought to the board. So we'll see how that goes. But next year is going to be very different when it comes to the RBA, isn't it?
Reset the calendar.
Yeah, reset the calendar. This is going to take a lot for me. Going from monthly meetings to otherwise. So we'll keep you abreast of all those changes and that legislation as it happens. But should we get back to equities? Take a look at some of these leaders, market leaders today.
And Weebit Nano off to the races, up 5%, as is Genesis Minerals and Ramelius. Helius bouncing back. It was also an upgrade from Morgan Stanley there, from a neutral, I think, to a neutral weight from an underweight, and that was up over 2%.
I just wanted to say, it's not showing on our page for some reason, but Technology One was a good performer as well.
It's up about 3%.
By 3%.
3%, yeah.
Flip the page though, IGO down. We brought you the news of that earlier. We've got Megaport, Aristocrat both lower, and Sayona Mining, which was off by more than 4% in the small cap space. Look, we saw Clearview Technologies.
You spoke to Clearview.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, twice in about a week. So if you want to go online, you can find those interviews there. But they've done a few deals, distribution deals, one in the States, one in Africa, South Africa most prominently. And in the laggards section, let's see if there's any companies that were in the news.
Bougainville Copper, well, they've been trying to produce that one for about 50 years now, so that was off by 15%. Also Wagner's off by 10.5%, and Hutchison off by 9.5%. So let's have a look and see what is happening. There's actually not that much overnight, is there? US new home sales figures and the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index.
Yeah, so it was quiet around the traps today as far as economic data, but it does, like we said, heat up later in the week. We do have those new home sales expected to remain under pressure from low inventory and high rates. We've also got the Dallas Fed Index, which Westpac expects will continue to show weakness in manufacturing activity. One thing that we haven't mentioned actually as well, Danny, is the Aussie dollar.
Yep, it's weaker.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Well, again, it's been
around 3-month highs though.
Yeah, it's been very, very strong. And again, this is on the expectation of interest rate differentials moving between Australia and the US. It's only off slightly, down to 65.73. So just off by 0.14%, so not that much. I think it's probably more reflective of a risk-off tone here.
Yeah, tomorrow retail sales, that's a big one for us here locally.
Absolutely, and moving out to tomorrow night, what have we got? US Conference Board Consumer Confidence, US house prices for September, but tomorrow we've got Collins Food and Aroa Buyers Surgery. That was actually on the call on Friday. Yeah. And AGMs, a plethora, a suite of them there that
including Helius, which we detailed
Helius
earlier.
and Ramsey.
Also Monash IVF, and that came up a couple times with me last week, chatting to small cap investors. One said, look, Monash IVF is one of those companies that is sort of immune to the impact of rising wages, and another was just talking about it. This is from Seneca Financial Solutions. It's up online actually in the small caps, just talking about Monash IVF being resilient as well through these cycles.
Okay, let's get a quick check of the markets to see where they closed. The ASX 200 did end down 53 points to 6,987 or 0.76%, and CBO 200 similar, off by 0.7%, just over 9.7 points.
And those US E-minis are still
negative.
Lower. Yep. So we'll continue to watch that. We've got gold jumping. We've got oil slipping. We had China's industrial profit growth slows. Boy, There always is so much to talk about, isn't there? So I guess we'll have to pick it up in the morning. And just this is my last reminder for the day of our next virtual investor event.
Yes.
Find out how the folks at Stock Doctor pick stocks. You love stock picking. We love stock picking. That's Thursday. You can watch it live or on demand. ausbiz.co/stock doctor. If you watch it live, though, you can actually submit questions. The guys are well prepped and really happy to answer your questions about the way in which they select
Their
stock.
secret sauce.
Secret sauce, so
We
to
all
speak.
love the secret sauce.
Won't be secret after Thursday anymore, will it?
Apparently not. Anyway, Nadine, there we go for a Monday. It was actually pretty busy,
Yeah,
wasn't
it was.
it? And we're going to have a very busy week. So catch up with all the news and interviews online, and we'll be back bright and early.
We'll see you then.